Gunnar Thompson with Oat Specialties, and today we're going over part 3 of our training programs series. So today let's talk about maybe an alternative way to program or train. This isn't meant to be instructional. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it. I'm not going to tell you sets and reps, but I want to open up your mind to seeing something that maybe you can fit into your training program to better prepare you or your athlete. So let's get right into it. First off, dynamic warm-up. Wouldn't change a thing. You still want to warm up that core temperature. You still want to loosen up the joints. You still want to gain some mobility there and really prepare the body, maybe activate it a little bit more, do something really quick, I would say, something to really kind of excite that central nervous system to get it better prepared either for the weight room or if you're going to jump right into what we call that special strength or that special physical preparation modalities. So you still want to get that warm up in, you still want to raise that body temperature, get the muscles prepared, all right? And then you have your weight training. Now this is what I was preluding to with tip of the week back in part 2 of the series, is not being afraid to contrast train. So what if we took a bench press, for instance, and someone was doing 3 sets of, let's just say 3 sets of 8 on bench press. But in between sets, maybe we had them do a med ball chest pass. Okay, so you're seeing here that they're still using similar musculature whenever they're chest passing as they are whenever they're bench pressing, but we've incorporated the core rotationally and transversely. Okay, so now we've kind of taken the bench press and moved it a step further, and we've made it a little bit more like the actual sport. So take that for instance. Now let's take a squat. Okay, if someone's doing 3 sets of 8 on squats, so maybe they do their sets of squats, and then in between they go and take a water boy and they put it here and they do jumping lunges with it. Okay, so now we're incorporating single leg movements, which most of the sport of baseball is played on a single leg. Okay, unless you're just standing around waiting for something to happen, of course. But whether you're pitching or hitting, a lot of that's done on single leg. So we get that, and then we also get the perturbations, so that water shifting. Okay, so now the body has to react to those and make sure to balance it. And so that way it's better able to produce force on the field, and then also it's better able to react on the field as well. So we've bridged that gap. Next would be something like, let's say the deadlift. Okay, if you want to do the deadlift, again, we'll just, for simple terms, we'll say that they're doing 3 sets of 8. Well, the deadlift works the posterior chain, but it also really hammers the core. Okay, and that's something that people are not quite familiar with, but it really does. So let's take a person doing 3 sets, they'll do their set of deadlifts, and then they immediately come and they'll do a torso burner, either rotation, okay, or even waves. So now we're engaging explosive movement and engaging the core transversely again, but we're also integrating the hips. So now we get the hips integrating with it just like we would on the ball field, whether we're hitting or if we're pitching. Again, we're bridging that gap. Also, the added benefit of the chains is you're building them explosive, so they're going really fast, and then the chains actually get heavier the further out that they get. So they're like a perfect bridge because they're not necessarily all speed, they're not necessarily medium speed, and then they're not necessarily just strength either. They're all 3 of those. And that's what we love about the chains, is whenever you integrate those movements, you're integrating through all 3 of those. You're going really fast at certain areas, and then you're producing more force in certain areas, so more power, and then ultimately you're getting to a strength position because the chain's reached its maximum length. So it's a perfect bridge to really bridge that gap between just the weight room and then the field. Now those are just 3 examples, but your mind can start to spur how you can start incorporating those functional, okay? We like to call them the special strength activities, okay? The ones that really just prepare you movement pattern wise for the field. And then also, just bridging that gap. So that just gives you an idea of what maybe a non-traditional program might look like. I think people jump the gun whenever they see the water balls or the water boys being used, and they're like, oh, our entire workout has to be that. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, there may be certain days where you program it to be all that you're doing that day, but it doesn't have to be that way. And some people kind of look at that and they think it's eyewash or it's gimmicks, but there is a functionality standpoint to that. You just have to see how it can be combined and where it fits in this puzzle, because that's what training programs always are. They're just a puzzle, and you just kind of have to fit bits and pieces throughout that puzzle. All right, and this tip of the week is have a progression and a regression for every exercise. Man, that seems like a lot of work, but I promise you it'll pay off in dividends. Here's the thing. Take a bench press, for instance. I want you to make sure that you have a regression, which would be maybe a push-up. So maybe you walk in one day and your shoulders aren't really filling up to it. So instead of bench pressing, maybe you do some weighted push-ups, okay? And then you have a progression. So you have something that kind of takes that bench press and goes to a level up. So maybe it's like an incline, or maybe a decline, or maybe you're using a different kind of bar, okay? Or maybe you're using, a water bag, a water boy, where you're bench pressing that. Something that kind of just brings that level up. Same thing with squats. If you can't do squats that day, maybe you can box squat. Okay. If you're doing squats really really well, then maybe you add some bands and some chains to make it a little bit harder. So also though, it comes into play whenever we talk about that special strength activities too. So, for instance, maybe you're feeling a little slower today. So maybe you lighten the load. So you have maybe 3 different loads that you can choose from. Maybe you take a little bit of water out of the water products. Or with the speed chain does it automatically for you. If you're not really putting forth a whole lot of output and a lot of force, then it's not going to challenge you because you're not going to reach the end of the chain. So it kind of auto-regulates that for you. But go ahead, I want you to write down a progression and a regression, and the reason for that is your body's going to change every single day that you go in the gym or that you go in the training facility or whatever. And if your body doesn't feel that good that day, then you need to regress it for that day. Or if your body's feeling superb and you don't feel challenged, then you need to push it and you need to have that progression. So go right now, write your regression and progression for each of the activities that you're doing, and that way you'll have something to auto-regulate every time you go into the facility. Stay with us for part 4 as I kind of go over and review this and see if there's something else. And also, I'm going to tell you the negative side effects of what integrating the special strength activities will do also. So I want to keep this as neutral as possible. I told you what could be an alternative, but I'm also going to tell you maybe some negatives, and I'm going to tell you how I think that those negatives can be kind of overcome. So stay with us for part 4. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification, and we'll see you next week.